Hi, welcome to ERPTREE.com online trainings. In this video, I'll take you through customer refund process in Oracle Release 12 accounts receivables. So, in this video, we'll understand what is the purpose of customer refund and what is the business case. And to implement this customer refund process in receivables, what setups need to be configured. And after setup part, what would be the process we have to follow to do the refunds to the customers. Okay, we'll see in and out process configuration and process flow. Fine. First, what we'll see, we look into this configuration part. Here I'm just we prepared this document which will cover complete configuration as well as transaction flow, and I'm going to demonstrate this customer refund process through this document. If anybody need this document after browsing this video, you can drop me a mail to the mentioned email ID erptree.com@gmail.com. We'll be sharing the same document free of cost. Fine. So to implement this solution in the system, we have to create receivable activity for refund. For customer refund, we have to create the receivable activity. There is only one setup we have to complete. After completing that setup, we'll go with some test case where we'll create the invoice with certain amount and we'll create receipt with a partial amount. Okay, and in the sense partial amount means here we are taking case as we'll create invoice with amount and we'll receive the payment from the customer more than what our customer has to pay. Then will that respective amount will be applying on the open transaction. Whatever the amount is left, say that amount we have to refund to the customer. Then finally we'll be remitting that receipt to bank, because we know like without remitting the receipt to bank there is no opportunity of getting cash out. We cannot encash the check. Okay, so for that reason we should remit. After remitting, that unapplied amount will be available to refund, so we'll perform the refund. Then system will create the refund transaction payables with the invoice type called as payment request. We'll see that. Okay, these are the setups and the process involved in the customer refund. When we talk about customer refund, there are many cases where we have to refund to the customer, where customer may give payment twice by mistake, or else there could be scenario where customer pays some excess amount. Later customer may request us to refund the same amount back to the customer, or else it could be some refund returns from the customer where we sold some material or we provided some service. Because of some issue, they returned that back to us, and in that scenario what our customer paid us, that amount also we have to refund. So whatever it may be the case, what is the simple process which we have to follow in our EBS release 12 version, we'll walk through that in this video. And when I talk about prior version 11i, in the 11i we don't have any standard solution to do the refunds. The refunds we need to handle through workaround. We'll go with some workaround and we can perform the refunds. But in release 12 version, the refund process is automated. So without doing any workaround, straight away you can handle this refund process within the system through automated activity. Okay. And coming to the latest version of Fusion applications, in the Fusion applications also this refund process remains same. There are no changes compared to R12. Okay, let's walk through these setup parts. Okay, first, if you want to create the receivable activity for refund, in the receivables application we have to take the navigation of setup, receipt, receivable activities. There we have to select our operating unit. If you set default operating unit, if you have access to multiple operating units from single responsibility, you may set a more default operating unit, then system will default your operating unit. If you have access to only one OU from single responsibility, you don't need to set any profile options, straight away it will get defaulted. Anyway, we have to select our operating unit, for which operating unit, within which operating unit you are going to perform this refund. You have to select your operating unit, then select the activity which you are creating. You are just going to perform the activity called as refund. Give the name as refund, and the activity type, the receivable activity type, select as a refund. And by default, system will take GL, account source, and rest of fields. By default, it will be taking. When you perform this activity to capture with what reason, why you are doing the refund, the reasons, to track that reason and the reason based amounts, you can provide the relevant GL account. Here we given customer refund account as a GL account, because when you are doing the refund, this is the receivable activity will be selecting. When you select this receivable activity, within the activity what are the account we have, that amount system will be tracking with that account only. Done. First, that is a step we have to complete. Once we're done with that, we can go with the transaction process. Okay, to test this refund, just here we created one transaction. Okay, we created one transaction by taking the navigation as transactions. So to create the transaction, first we have to select the transaction source. Once you select the transaction source, automatically system will default transaction type and class as a invoice and everything. This section, all the information system will default automatically. The reason is, when you create the transaction source level will be assigning, we assign transaction type. Within the type there will be, when we are creating the transaction type, within the type will be having the invoice class. So once you select transaction source will default the transaction type will default the transaction class. Primarily we use transaction source to generate the numbering for the transaction, and transaction type will be using to control the transaction process as per our business requirement. Done. So once you select this transaction, all the information will get defaulted. Okay, this up to here. And here you can select your ship to bill to customer details. Then after providing, just you can select the customer information. After selecting the customer information, you can click on line items. Once you click on line items, there you will get a screen where you can select item from inventory. Here you can select the item. So which inventory organization you associated with this operating unit through OEM system parameters. In the OEM system parameters, we have to assign the inventory organization, which inventory is supporting for this operating unit. So accordingly, within that inventory, what are the item we have, those items we can access from this screen. So here we selected one item as ERPTREE stationery, and we given the quantity as 1 unit, price is 1 lakh we given. So the total amount is 1 lakh. So that's how we given. And once we're done with that, so based on auto accounting configuration, automatically system will derive the debit and credit lines, which you can see here in the line level. If you click on this tab called as distribution, if you click on the tab called as distribution, within this you'll be able to see the debit and credit lines which system derive based on the auto accounting. That may be table based rule you may define, or else constant rule, whatever. Accordingly system will derive the accounting for this transaction as a debit and credit line. Fine. Once you're done with that, you have to click on complete. Here we have a tab called as complete. You have to click on this. Once you click on complete, the balances will get updated against the customer account. Okay, so once you click on complete, system, see here you can see that balance got updated. If you notice the previous screen, there we create a transaction. Okay, there you don't see any balances until unless you complete the transaction. See here we entered the, here we have that screen and all. Later just within the line items we'll enter it. But even after entering the line items, you cannot see any balance due over here. Okay, once you click on complete, then only system will update the balances against the customer account. Okay, so then you will be able to see that. And when you are creating the transaction type, the transaction type level, if you set to option as a print, this transaction type related invoices need to be printed. If you set such kind of control, then system will enable this icon which allows you to print this transaction. Once you click on this complete, here the balance will get updated. System will be flagging as this transaction is completed. Okay, now whenever you click on this complete, then only balance will get updated. Otherwise there is no use of this transaction. It will be lying in the system as a draft transaction without updating any balances. It's a mandatory, we have to complete the transaction. After completing this transaction, if you want to update any amounts, okay, before you apply receipt or before you create the credit memo against this transaction, system will allow us. Okay, if you want to update any transaction amounts, okay, you can click on line items and you can go and update the balances, line level amounts whatever you entered. But once you create any, say the transaction amount is 1 lakh, say you create a receipt for 10,000, you apply the receipt against this transaction. In that scenario, system won't allow you to incomplete this transaction, which allows you to update the balances. And if you take other case, you say you created on credit memo to reduce the balances from this transaction for say 1,000 rupees. Okay, so transaction amount is 1 lakh, you created one credit memo for 1,000 to reduce 1,000 amount from this transaction. In that case also, after creating the credit memo against this transaction also, you cannot incomplete this transaction to go and update the any balances related information. Okay, so before you apply the any receipt or before you just apply any credit memo on this transaction, then system will allow you to do any changes to line level amounts. After that you cannot do anything. Done. Now we have one transaction with 1 lakh. So here for demonstration, we take in the receipt creation. To create the receipts from receivables, we have a navigation called as receipts. Once you take the navigation here, you have to select the receipt method. Okay, when you create receipt class, there will be given the receipt method. Okay, that method you have to select nothing but how you are receiving the payment from the customer. You will be selecting the receipt method. Then you have to enter the receipt number. Receipt number is nothing but generally that would be the check number. Okay, the field wise oracle given as receipt number. Generally when we do the implementation, this label name will be changed to check number. Okay, so here check number we have to enter. Then receipt amount. So receipt we are receiving, say the payment we are receiving in INR. In receivables we have a feature which allows us to receive the receipts in different currency. Transaction currency can be one and receipt currency can be different. So that is the reason we have a flexibility to select receipt amounts currency. Here we have a transaction INR. We are going to record the receipt also in INR. So we just selected receipt currency as INR, and we take in here customer paid 1,50,000, but we have a transaction with the customer 1 lakh only. Just to execute this customer refund process, we are creating the receipt with 1,50,000. So first we have to select the receipt method, then you have to provide the receipt number, nothing but check number, then select receipt currency and receipt amount. Okay, by default system will take receipt type as a standard. We have basically two type of receipts, standard receipt and miscellaneous. Now we are going to just work with the standard receipt where we can create receipt and apply on the open transaction. Done. Once you just you have to provide that amount. After that, this amount we received from which customer, we have to select the customer. Otherwise, if you know the transaction, this receipt need to be applied on which transaction, directly you can give the transaction number here. Then with this transaction number which customer is associated, automatically system will default that customer information. And receipt method creation time, so we'll be associating the bank account details with the receipt method. Once you select the receipt method here, the system will be defaulting the remittance bank. That means once you receive the check into organization, you'll be remitting that check to which bank. That's all about here we are mapping. The same will get defaulted at the time of receipt creation. Done. So just we are providing all this information. After providing all this information, just simply you can click on apply. Okay, click on apply. That means this amount, okay, this amount we want to apply on this transaction number, but transaction amount is 1 lakh, receipt amount is 1,50,000. We can apply max 1 lakh only. So generally we use in transaction type level the control as natural applications only. If you enable the checkbox called as over application, okay, in that case system will allow you to apply receipt with more than transaction amount, but generally that practice we don't see in the business. Okay, here just you can click on apply, then the system is taking the same receipt transaction number, then simply you can go and click on preview, or else you can click on apply also. Just click on preview here. So which transactions you want to see, that you may select here. Since we are going to apply the receipt on the invoice, we selected just invoice, and you can just click on preview. Once you click on preview, that same transaction will get displayed by addressing how much open amount. So here you can see the same transaction number 121, and against the transaction, whatever the amount we enter, the same you can see as a 1 lakh. Okay, now to apply the receipt on this transaction, you can enable this checkbox called as apply checkbox, then save it. And once you click on save, the balance due will become 0 here. The applied amount is 1 lakh, due is 0. Okay, but transfer receipt amount is 1 lakh 50,000. So 1 lakh we applied, remaining amount system will be showing as unapplied amount. So when we have some unapplied amount from the customer, okay, how to go about it? There are different cases where we can handle this unapplied amount. The one way is we may keep this 50,000 unapplied amount on customer account only, so that in future we can get adjust this amount on another open transactions, which we call the future we call as on account. We can place this 50,000 on customer account if customer is okay with that. So if you place this amount on account, in future whenever we have a transaction with the customer, so we will be applying this unapplied amount on that transaction. And other option is, if this unapplied amount is very small amount, say here we have a unapplied amount as 50,000, say simple example, we have unapplied amount as a 50 rupees. So for 50 rupees, customer may not be interested to request us to hold that amount in the customer account to apply on another future transactions, or else customer may not ask us to refund that 50 rupees. So in that scenarios, customer may not show interest to deal with that amount, to get that amount back or whatever. In that scenario, even we don't, if you leave that amount as a 50 rupees is unapplied, when you run the reports, all the time system will be showing that amount is there in the system as unapplied. To avoid that case, what generally we do is we'll go with a write-off. We'll do the write-off where we'll be closing that amount, saying that customer is not interested to take it back, or with some reason which we call it as receipt write-off. By using the receipt write-off, we can close if the amount is very negligible amount which we have as unapplied. And third scenario is here refund. Now amount is 50,000. If customer may ask us to keep on account, if it is very small amount, we may write off. But now these two cases we are not going to take. We are going to go with the case called as refund. Say customer is asking to refund this 50,000 back to the customer. In this scenario, what we have to do? We applied 1 lakh on the open transaction called as 121, remaining 50,000 which is unapplied, we want to refund to the customer. So if you want to refund to the customer, what we have to do is here, just you have to place the cursor in the next row. You can see in the next screen whatever we captured here. Okay. Okay, here just one more task we have already discussed. We have to remit after creating the receipt. If receipt status is remitted, then only from if which receipt status is remitted from that receipt, if any unapplied amount is there, that only you can refund to the customer. Now we created receipt. Now we have to remit. To perform the remittance, we have a navigation called as receipt remittance. Here we have to select the remittance method as standard. Okay, here method is just we'll go with that method called as standard remittance method standard, and the receipt class. Here first batch type is just remittance only, it will be defaulting, and remittance method standard also still will be defaulting. Select receipt class. What are the receipt you want to remit? Okay, that receipt will be there with a specific receipt method. That receipt method is part of which receipt class, that class we have to select first. After selecting receipt class, if you have multiple receipt methods, okay, you have to choose the receipt method, which receipt method are used to create the receipt, or else system will default this if you have only one. Then you want to remit that receipt information to which bank account. The bank account details also you can select over here. Then what we have to do is, after completing that, to perform the remittance we have two options: auto create and manual create. In case of manual create, we have to perform the sequence of activities one by one. If you go with auto create, all the actions you can select at a time, and you can with a single click you can process this receipts for remittance. So here we selected auto create, which is an easy process for us. So just you have to click on just auto create. Once you click on auto create, the system will open up this screen. Okay, there you can click on this approve and approve. Just click on this approve. Basically that pop-up window will come where we can select the options. So it's approved and submitted. Okay, then just and you can just click on receipts. Okay, you can click on receipts. Here you can see that receipt is remitted. Here we have option to select whether we want to remit all the receipts or selected receipts. Here in the previous screen you can select it. Okay, I think yes that we didn't capture that, right? You should just here once you click on that okay, once you click on auto create, it will just pop up the window where you can select the criteria which receipts need to be remitted, and you can say submit. Okay, then you can see the receipts, which receipts are remitted, and system will create the batch number also. With by using the batch number you can query that, then the system will just populate this information here. You can see one receipt remitted, the receipt amount is 1,50,000. Now we can go and perform the refund. So once you click on receipts tab, that will display how many receipts are remitted. The receipt number is 1, nothing but check number. Receipt amount is 1,50,000. So now you can go and see the receipt status as remitted. If receipt status is remitted, we'll be able to perform the remittance. Here the format is not required in that pop-up screen. You can select format and approve. So everything will be done in one go. Okay. Now here you can see these receipts, the same screen we given. And from here you can do the refund transaction. So the 1,50,000 we have in the receipt number called as 1. So out of that 1 lakh is applied and 50,000 is unapplied. This 50,000 which is unapplied we want to refund back to the customer. So for that what we can do is you can just take the navigation as the receipts, and you can query for the receipt by giving the receipt method and receipt number. Okay, you can query, you can see the same receipt. Now you can click on apply. You can click on apply tab. Okay, then it will just display the screen. Here what we have to do is we have to, in the next row we have to select apply to as a refund. Then automatically system will be defaulting that unapplied amount to a refund activity. Okay, so it will just system will take that information here. Once you will select refund and all, automatically system will be enabling the tab called as refund attributes. Here we have to provide the refund attributes. So basically you will be providing the refund payment method as a mandatory here. Even you don't see as a field wise mandatory, but process wise payment method is mandatory. You have to select, check, or however you are going to refund to the customer. So then click on apply. And one more point here, if we create a receivable activity called as a refund, automatically system will be taking the receivable activity called as refund. If you scroll little right in this second row, the second row, okay, if you scroll little right there, you can see that automatically system will be taking the refund method in the same line. Okay, it will be taking to capture that 50,000 should hit to which account. Then here you can click on apply. Once you click on apply, system will be enabling one more tab called as refund status. Means we performed refund and what is the status of the refund action which we taken. Okay, here you can see all the information, whether what I can say like this refund transaction is created or not. If created, what is the transaction number? Here you can see all the information. So system created, okay, refund transaction trading partner demo organization. Basically demo organization is our customer. Now in the refund process, automatically customer will be created as a party. Customer system will convert into party, and the refund with the refund amount system will create the transaction payables, the invoice type called as payment request. See, with the 50,000 it created on invoice number is this. You can see all the information here. Okay, and then you can navigate to payables. Okay, when you are practicing, in the practicing time, in the practice environment, test environment, you have to make sure that you open the payables period. When we are working with any client, we know all the time just the same period will be open in all the applications, but when you are practicing, the same time in other applications periods may not be open. If you are going to test this functionality, you have to make sure that payable periods also open for which period you are doing this activity in the receivables. So then you can go to the payables and you can take the navigation, invoice entry, invoices. There you can query with invoice type as payment, or you can query with the trading partner, your customer name, and or else invoice number, whatever you see in the previous screen, the same number you can query. You can find the invoice here. You can see the transaction type is, invoice type is payment request. Okay, this is how just we can do the setups and we can create the refund related transaction, the payables. Now payables department will take the responsibility of making the payment. Why we are calling this type as a payment request? The reason is customer receivables department is requesting the payables department to make the payment. So they are getting the request from other department like receivables. That is the reason this type we are calling as payment request. Okay, when you see in this field also trading partner, in this current scenario in the 11i version, if you notice the field name they given as a supplier, but now here they are giving as trading partner. Reason is, so if once you do this refund, system will be populating, system will be just deriving the same customer information to trading partner. If you keep the name as a supplier, it is not more relevant. That is the reason just they given very generic name as a trading partner. Trading partner can be supplier or customer or any other party who will be in the involved in the business. So now that's how they just change the label also in release 12 version, since they given this customer refund process automation. Okay, now by following the payment terms, okay, the payables department will take the responsibility of making the payment. So that's all about customer refund process we have in release 12 accounts receivables. Okay, and even in the fusion also the process remains same. If you know in R12, you'll be able to do the same process in fusion also. Okay, so that's all about customer refund process. If anybody need this document, you can just email us on this mail ID. We can forward you the same document if you are interested. So apart from these, like just we majorly deal with all the online trainings. If anybody is interested for online training, we are looking for best quality trainings, you can contact us on this email or mobile numbers. So you can just browse our website also. Here we here what are the courses we listed. We deal with all the courses: SAP online trainings, R12 fusion, cloud computing courses, Microsoft, IBM tools, SaaS. So almost all IT trainings will deal. We just will be providing online trainings for all IT courses. Okay, so thanks for browsing this video, and we'll meet you in another video with a new concept. Okay, thanks for your time.